Hello, I'm Amber Sheldon,
I am Maritza Punch.
and today we are going to talk about Dostoevsky's Underground Man. And this character is sort of a pivotal figure in the study of existentialism in philosophy. So we're going to address a few questions regarding this character. For one, is he a deplorable, repugnant individual? Is he shitty? Second, is he doing something good for himself? Does he think he's doing something good for himself? Why? And finally, and most importantly, is he really more free than the other people he claims to be different from?
The first question, he seems to suck because nobody wants to be like him. Because he's full of contradictions. He says that he cannot even become an insect. He cannot become anything because he is too intelligent to become anything. He cannot get angry. He doesn't want to do the things that a normal person would do. Like, he doesn't want to go to doctor when his liver hurts, when he has a toothache. And he just wants to oppose to everything that is expected from him. So he's very full of contradictions. But does he think that he does something good for himself? That depends on what we understand from goodness. For example, if we take the Socratic idea, which he challenges, the Socratic idea tells us that we will never want bad things for ourselves. If we are enlightened enough, we will not want bad things for ourselves. So we might say, or according to a Socratic idea, he might turn out to be someone who wants something good for himself, because Socrates thinks that nobody wants to be unhappy and nobody wants to be miserable. But he wants to show that I want to be miserable, I want to be unhappy. And we can push the Socratic idea and say that no, he still thinks that he's doing something good for himself out of being miserable, because he asserts his individuality and authenticity.
Yeah, so this is relates to what I think is infused throughout the unpleasantness of this character, actually, because I think that he, in a way, maybe underlying his motivation, he does think he is doing something good for himself, in that he seems to take pleasure in being or thinking that he is more conscious, more knowing than others. He's pursuing some sort of sense of superiority over the majority of people that he sees as not free or not as conscious as he is. So I think he, in a way, sort of is pursuing what he thinks is good for himself in a perverted way.
Yeah, I am not sure that he is doing these things to get something good, basically, out of these things. I think that point is very important. He tries to be authentic. And I think it's so many times he also feels superior, as much as he also feels inferior, though. There are times that he thinks he cannot become anything. He cannot even become an insect. But there is also still a kind of feeling of superiority that comes from how he's too intelligent to become something, how he's too intelligent to become a normal person. But I think the point when he does those things is not to get some greater satisfaction. He thinks that he suffers because this is something valuable in itself. He's not doing this to get a greater good. He says that he even doesn't know what is in his best interest. he says that, like, well, people say that there are some things that is best in our interest, right? Like wealth, like peace of mind. But he is skeptical about what would be the best for his advantage after all. And he doesn't do these things, and he doesn't suffer or become miserable to get something good out of it. He just values this intrinsically.
That's right, because he mentions that he's trying to resist or maybe spite or embody a counterexample to a deterministic sort of sense of the human being, where he wants to represent that we are not just pieces in a puzzle or in a machine or subject to unconscious or physical formulations that drive us. He wants to use his intelligence and his increased capacity for choice to sort of signal something about humanity.
He's definitely doesn't want to be a deterministic piano key in to make things work in the universe. There are so many actually different versions of determinism that he assumes here. Like, on the one hand, he's definitely against this rationalistic determinism, like this enlightenment idea that, like, we are rational enough that if we know better, if we know enough science, psychology, then we will get rid of our, like, irrational desires or perverse desires. He definitely opposes that by claiming that, like, look at civilization. It's a reflection of human development, but people are just, like, bloodthirsty. There are still wars. Statesmen, emperors have always been bloodthirsty, which shows that, like we cannot be desiring good things if we are doing those things. And it doesn't show that we are rational. On the other hand, he's also against a mechanistic determinism, because he so many times says that I don't want 2 + 2 equaling 4, like, and I don't like this fact. I want to do anything to go against it. So yeah, 2 + 2 equals 4 is that example represents why he's against all mechanistic determinism. But I'm not sure, if he's succeeding in challenging determinism, because determinism doesn't have to be that narrow.
Yeah, and I think that he is still determined in a way that he hasn't even addressed, in some sort of sociological, cultural way, or the way that he molds himself in resistance to the values around him to pursue his own good, or, like, not be goodness as in not being sick and miserable and lonely, or alone. I hope he's lonely. Anyway.
He's lonely.
Okay.
Well, actually.
He seems pretty pleased to be in his place with his, like, little housemaid.
Yeah,
Stinky one.
In the second part, we are gonna see that,
That's right. Okay, like the stories. I forgot that there were other stories. I was so focused on this manifesto. So back to, he seems to be determined in this way by the values and that he's rejecting that other people would adopt, or the way that people should behave if they were rational or if they were cogs in a machine. He's still determined by this sort of fixed idea of what he should be the, like, antithesis to. And this is sort of, like, I think illustrated in this example of, like, him thinking he's more free, or this idea of him thinking he's more free than them. Like in the case where he won't go to a doctor even though he knows that his liver is going bad. But he thinks that this resistance to what the rational person or the person who just does what's good for them does, that by doing this opposite, he is more free. But couldn't he be just as free if he, like, weighed both of these options. Like, I really don't want to go to the doctor, so I could not, but then also, like, I should, so I guess I'll do that. I don't understand why that is any less of a free choice than his, and might even be more of a free choice than his, because his choice seems flat determined by being the anti-choice of the normal.
Yeah, so I think in addition to the rational determinism and mechanistic determinism that we talk in free will discussions, there's also this sociological determinism that he's against, that I don't want to be determined by any societal norms, impositions, such that I will do everything to oppose them. But then the sad part is that he's almost over-determined by these very societal norms that he's opposing. It's in a paradoxical way. He becomes like almost more determined than somebody who just goes along with it. I mean, I'm not sure if this is the right interpretation, because on the one hand, he achieves his goal, right? He wants to be an individual. He doesn't want to be a piano key. He doesn't want to be like others. He doesn't want to be determined by society. And he's really an authentic person. He's really different from others. He claims his individuality by opposing those norms. But the mental energy he puts in to oppose those norms is paradoxically like too much and too sad, in a way that he almost, it's contradictory with the goals he wants to achieve.
So this brings me back to the question of freedom, or what we think of who is really free now in this sort of situation where we have the underground man sort of person, and then let's say back to the example I gave about going to the doctor and weighing your choices and picking one versus seeing the options and knowing that you have to pick the anti-option. So who is more free in this comparison? I would say that like the person with greater knowledge who surveys the possibilities and selects one is more free than the person whose entire drive is determined in this way by choosing against one's own good.
Maybe. I think, his response to that question would be that we are just too much stuck in philosophical systems, such that we want to get rid of all the contradictions. We want to show like how contradictory ways like could go into the same, we can think of it under the same umbrella. Like when I put it in the way that, this is like actually paradoxical, you are still determined by your own society, he would tell me that, well, this is just the philosophical flow where you trivialize the distinctions that shouldn't be trivialized in real life. Well, that obviously he becomes more authentic and individual. So saying that, well, but still you are determined by the society to which you are opposing to, would be just like us stuck in this mathematical abstraction that he accuses. I was trying to find that paragraph where he says that, in theory things might come out as coherent, but still that doesn't capture the distinctions in real life.
That's so perfect, because I think your response is really clever, because it really highlights the contradiction of all contradictions or something, or his opposition to just the entire system itself that could argue against his freedom that it liberates him almost entirely from the counter arguments, but in this like way that he would want.
Yeah.
Well, this is excellent. So to summarize, we started off with these questions of, is the underground man repugnant or shitty person? And second, does he think that he's doing something good for himself in living the way he does? And third, is he really more free than the normal people that he claims to be distinct from and as an individual?
So is he the kind of person that would suck? And I think, yeah, like we don't want to be a person like him. He's full of contradictions. He cannot live a fulfilling life. And does he really think that he's doing good for himself? I think to that question, we try to respond that would trivialize the fact that he values suffering for the sake of it. Like he wants to be miserable just because he values to being authentic. And he doesn't do these things to get a greater satisfaction out of being miserable. Even though he's getting some satisfaction, he's not doing these things to get that outcome. And the third question, even if there are some versions of determinism which we haven't discussed in detail, but even if there are some versions of determinism that might explain his actions, his unpredictability, his irrationality, I think his response to these like coherent system is that like they do not really capture the reality. So these are our like first responses, but if you have like different responses or different interpretations of the text, please feel free to share your comments with us.
Yes, what do you think of freedom? Do you think that we have this power to control our will? What do you think makes somebody an individual? Or what makes somebody more free than somebody else? Is the underground man free? We are very interested to hear.
Thanks for watching us.
Bye.